What's up, everybody? Thank you guys for tuning in for another edition of the NFL Offseason Reloaded. This week, we're going to do the AFC West Reloaded offseason grades and moves and all the fun stuff. We're going to be doing Denver, Kansas City, the Raiders, and the Chargers in order. 4 teams. I got 4 beers. It's 4 questions per team. Mike Goodpaster is my co-host. I'm your host, Dan Kornhauser. Mike, are you ready?
I am always ready, Dan. Anytime I'm doing something with you, I am ready. And remind everybody, hit that like button and to subscribe.
Subscribe, follow, share to all your social medias. Let's get more people going. Let's sprinkle the crowd with some knowledge. It's go time. Denver Broncos. Mike, first question. Best offseason addition or re-signing for the Denver Broncos?
The Denver Broncos. Now, I think the Broncos are definitely, closing in on the Chiefs. When you look at this, I like the Evan Ingram because I think they needed another weapon on offense. But I would say Dre Greenlaw. I mean, he's a guy that I think they definitely need linebacker help. And when you look at it, I think he only played, 2 games in 2024 because of his injury in the Super Bowl and Achilles injury. I'm a Pacers fan. I don't like Achilles injuries. But I think they got him on a 3-year deal. If he's healthy, I like Greenlaw. But I do like Ingram, but Greenlaw would be my number one here. I think it's more of a needed linebacker.
Yeah, Greenlaw is one of the elite coverage linebackers in the NFL, and he was money for the 49ers before the injuries. I hope he comes back healthy. Like you said, he had a season ender. He only played 3% of the snaps. So, early on in the season, I'm going to throw out Evan Ingram for me. You mentioned him, and he's another guy coming off of injury. He only played 35% of the snaps this past year for Jacksonville, but when he's healthy, he's one of the better receiving tight ends in the league. He's not elite by any measure, but he's at the worst a middle of the field guy who can make plays in the red zone, get open short, and be a good outlet for young quarterbacks. I mean, he was one of Trevor Lawrence's favorite targets when he was on the field. And I think with Bo Nix, you can expect a lot of the same because they don't really have a lot of talent at wide receiver, Mike, as you alluded to. I'm not a fan of Mims. I don't think he's a legit number 2 at this point. Veli, the other one, the other receiver that they had who played for them last year, I think he finished third on the team in receiving yards. He's another okay type of guy, but he's nothing special. And they brought in a rookie wide receiver, Pat Bryant, but there's a lot of question marks behind Cortland Sutton. And I think Evan Ingram can take a nice seat as a number 2 option in his pass offense. Now, for the biggest loss, Mike, I'm going to take this one. We're going to ping pong them. So I'm going to say they didn't really lose much this offseason. Name-wise, Javonte Williams stands out, but I'm going to go with Cody Barton because, as you said, they needed linebacker help, and Barton wasn't anything special by any means, but he did play 91% of the snaps for them. He was a big part of their defense. He played a lot, and, it's difficult to replace that sort of availability in the NFL these days, especially at a position like linebacker. Again, he's nothing special or not a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro or anything like that. He's not going to change the aspect of the defense because he's not there. But like you said, Mike, they needed linebacker help even before. Dre Greenlaw is a solid addition, and he's an upgrade for me, and he'll be a great welcome addition to that linebacking core. But Barton's the only one that really stands out for me.
Yeah, really, there's nothing that stands out to me as a huge loss except for Barton, and I don't think he's a huge loss.
Exactly.
And I think this Denver team was smart in the offseason because I don't think there was a ton of things in free agency to get. And instead of going out and just buying stuff you don't need or stuff that you're hoping will be good, I think they did a great job here by bringing in Ingram and Greenlaw, tight end and linebacker. They're 2 guys may not be eye-catching to guys who don't really follow closely. But as I said, I think the Denver Broncos are going to do really well this season. They finally have a quarterback, which they haven't had. They've got a head coach. The guy's a little bit of an asshole, but he's still a good football coach. So what's your next question? I already know what it is.
So biggest loss, we got that out the way. Mike, third question, non-first round rookie who will make an immediate impact.
Dude, this has to be RJ Harvey. If RJ Harvey is the real deal from day one, the Denver Broncos will win this division.
I love RJ Harvey. North-South runner, hard-nosed guy. He's going to get those tough yards, and they need that. They lacked that last year, and they had the worst rushing offense in Sean Payton's NFL head coaching career. So he likes to run the ball. They like to be multifaceted off the play action pass. They like to take shots. I'm going to go with Pat Bryant just to be a little different because RJ Harvey
already took Harvey, so you had to go with somebody else.
Harvey's the obvious, and I love him, and I think he's going to be a great piece for them this season if he's healthy. But Pat Bryant, I'm going to go with because, as I alluded to before, they're lacking receiving options. They took Pat Bryant in the third round, 74th overall, and you don't take a guy in the middle of that, middle of the third round, early third round, if you don't expect to play him early. And as I've already said multiple times, they don't really have a legitimate wide receiver to establish. So I think he's got a chance to play early and often, and definitely by the end of the season, he's an excellent route runner. I can see him really settling in as.
Here, hold on. We got a question from Sev. Whatever he says, how many games you actually watched at the Broncos? What do you not agree with what we've said? I think Denver wins this division. I think Denver's a Super Bowl contender if Harvey is a legit deal at running back. Because I think I think the Chiefs have not gotten better. The Broncos have. And the AFC West, to me, is a division where I think maybe the only team that improved here was the Broncos. Now, maybe the Raiders, because, hell, you got to improve and you suck as bad as they do. But, I agree with Seb because he says the Broncos are building a foundation to compete with anybody. And he is. They have a legit big-time quarterback. If Harvey's legit, the offensive line's solid. The defense got better. They've got a tight end. So, yeah, they're not real deep at wide receiver right now, but Cortland Sutton's a stud. Evan Ingram's a stud. If you got to go to O-line, you got a good running game. Everybody else will get a little bit better just being around there, Dan.
And actually, to answer his question, I can tell you I watched a few Broncos games because I'm big in fantasy football, and I had Javonte Williams on multiple teams last year because I thought he would be a nice sneaky piece. He was underwhelming to say it nicely. As the season went on, he was kind of a disappointment. And I'm a closet, not so closet Kansas City Chiefs fan. So when they play,
most Kansas City Chiefs fans are in the closet or have recently come out.
So when they played Kansas City, they typically have good games. And I watched the Kansas City Denver game this past season. At the end of the season, they blew out Kansas City. I did not watch that game because the Kansas City were playing their backups, I think. And that's why they blew them out in that one. But
yeah, I kept my Bengals out of the playoffs.
And finally, the fourth question, I'll take this one. Did the team get better, worse, or stay the same? Mike, you said it, and I'm agree with you. I think this team got better. I loved a lot of the additions they made. Hufanga, the safety from the San Francisco 49ers. Greenlaw, as you mentioned. Evan Ingram, as I mentioned. Jahdae Barron, we didn't even talk about him, their first-round pick, 20th overall. A bit of a shocker that they went cornerback or defensive back in the first round with other needs and solid players on the board. But Barron is a Swiss Army knife. He's basically a Brian Branch light in that he can play in the slot. He can play a little bit of safety. He can play outside. And that's exactly what he did when he was at Texas. He was a guy who played all over the field. They blitzed him, played him in the slot. They played him in run coverage. He's a willing tackler. I'm a huge fan. I love what the Broncos did in the draft. And I've been talking about this Broncos team since they hired Sean Payton. When they got Russell Wilson, I was all in. And I was confused because I thought Russell Wilson still had something there, and he didn't.
I told you he didn't, but I did tell you
that he didn't.
I did tell you the guy that's playing quarterback, Bo Nix, was going to be a stud, and you
did. You did also say that Bo Nix was going to be. I think you said Bo Nix was your favorite quarterback in the draft class.
I said the only two I liked were him and Jaden Daniels.
Mm-hmm. But I do remember you singing Bo Nix's praises, and I was not on the Bo Nix train. I remember the Bo Nix from Auburn and how bad he was, and that's the image stuck in my mind. But he fits like a glove in this offense. I love his fit. I love this team. I love their defense. If the running game gets better, they're going to be good. I think they got better. And Mike, you agree?
Yeah, they got better. I think they're going to win this division. I mean, I think this. I think Patrick Mahomes' best days are behind him.
Nah, I think, well,
he is not put it like this. Patrick Mahomes is not a top 10 all-time quarterback, and he's not the best quarterback playing today.
He is not a top 10 quarterback right now, no.
No, I mean, yeah, there's no way.
He's not, definitely not. The Super Bowls are nice. Yes, 3 chips is great, and the MVPs and the stats, they're all wonderful. But yeah, I'm not putting him up there until it's all said and done. Once his career is over, we'll see where he's at, and then we can have that conversation. But not now. But with that, let's segue into the Kansas City Chiefs. And since I went with the last one, you're going to start us off on this one. My best offseason addition.
Hey, real quick, Robert. He said, "What's up today?" Not much, Robert. We're glad you're on. He says, "Go Pittsburgh Steelers." Robert is a really good guy, but everybody has flaws. He also likes the Lakers, so he's got 2 flaws. But he says, "Go IU basketball," which I'll go with. And hopefully me and Risley will be back soon with the Indiana basketball show. The Kansas City Chiefs, what do you want? The biggest addition?
I want their best offseason addition or retention.
Gardner Minshew, because he'll be the starter before the season's over when Mahomes gets hurt.
Nah, it's going to be Bailey Zappi.
It could be.
It's going to be Bailey Zappi. That's your boy.
Bailey Zappi's good. Hey, all I know is this. They let him start 3 games. He threw for over 202 of them, and then they had to bring back in the guy that was the number 1 draft pick, who then they got rid of to draft somebody else. But I think the Chiefs didn't do anything flashy. There's nothing that is awesome here to me that they did.
It doesn't necessarily have to be an addition. I know we've talked about.
I know, but you're going to ask me about draft picks, so
then while you're pondering, I'm going to say for me, their best offseason move, retention, addition was keeping Trey Smith on the franchise tag. He's one of the best offensive guards in football. They had to work the roster a little bit to make it happen, which we'll touch on later on, which concerns me with some of the moves that they did to retain Smith and Nick Bolton, their star middle inside linebacker. But I'm going to go with Trey Smith, one of the better guards in the NFL. Their offensive line was the weakness in the Super Bowl. That's what really cost them. Mahomes had absolutely no time. They had Joe Thuney playing out of position at left tackle because their tackles were awful. They still have Creed Humphreys at center, who's arguably one of the best, if not the best center in the NFL right now. And Trey Smith is right up there at right guard. So that's a nice 1-2 punch inside. I'm curious to see how the rest of the
unfortunately you need 5 guys up front.
But yeah, we'll touch more on the rest of the offensive line later. Did you get
this is the thing. For them to win a Super Bowl, they better hope it's Jalen Moore or Josh Simmons.
They better hope. They gave Moore a 2-year, $30 million deal.
But one of these 2 guys has got to be the guy, because they've got 3 holes on the offensive line, and they're filling them with younger guys, and that's going to be hard to pull off, I think. And also, this seemed a little stale to me. They shook it up a few years ago by getting rid of Tyreek Hill. They don't really have anybody they can do that with anymore, and they're paying their quarterback a lot of money and Travis Kelce a lot of money. And I think the issue with this team is Travis Kelce's not getting any younger, and he's taking a lot of beatings, and he's living a very easy life now with a billionaire girlfriend. How much longer is Travis Kelce even going to play? Because I think this could be his last year. I think it could be Andy Reid's last year. And if all that happens, then we definitely will see if Patrick Mahomes is a top 10 all-time quarterback or not.
That's a fun conversation. We're definitely going to have when we do our season preview in August before the start of the season. Because I have some thoughts on that front as well with Mahomes, and you know how I feel. I've made it very clear when we've done our shows where I stand on the Mahomes thing, but new wins are a blowing.
Yeah, it ends up that in the long run, I'm probably going to be right again, huh?
I'm still on the Mahomes train. That's still my boy.
Dude, I think he's a really good quarterback.
But I think not all good things last forever.
Put it like this. I still think that he's number 2.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Who else would be? Because Josh Allen's not a very good quarterback. He's a great athlete, but he still makes stupid decisions at bad times. Same thing could be said for Lamar Jackson. So really, if I gave you my top 3 quarterbacks, it would be Burrow, it would be Mahomes, and it would be Baker Mayfield.
That's gross. I hate that.
It's gross, but if you look at the numbers, Baker Mayfield is a top 5 NFL quarterback. And it can't even be questioned. Come on, he's taken the Buccaneers to the playoffs twice. He took the Browns to the playoffs and won a game. I mean, how many dudes have thrown more than 30 touchdown passes last, 5 years? He's done it he's done it a few times.
Now I know you
So,
like Baker Mayfield. You've been talking about Baker for a few years since he was.
yeah, and he's a stud. He's proved it. Look at these numbers.
You've been on that Baker Mayfield train for a while.
I was right again.
He is a good quarterback.
That's crap, dude. The fact that you would call him good really makes people question you.
Is a bit rich.
Why? Who's better?
You are literally the only person outside of the Mayfield household or family line that probably says that. I don't even think Buccaneers fans would take that. I mean,
I believe they would, because anytime. Oh, wait a second here. All right, this is what you got. His last 2 seasons. 2023, 64% completions, 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. I'm sorry, last year, outside of Joe Burrow, he had the best season of any quarterback. He completed almost 72% of his passes, 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, a passer rating of 107. And if you go back when he was with the Browns, they ran him out of there. But in 2020, he takes them to the playoffs, 26 touchdowns, 8 picks, a 96 passer rating. He goes to a horrible situation in Carolina, what ends up being a horrible situation with the Rams just because they've already got a starting quarterback. So, I mean, you can say what you want, but how many other quarterbacks, here's a quiz for you, have thrown for over 4,000 yards the last 2 years? How many quarterbacks have thrown 69 touchdown passes in the last 2 years? So you can sit there, and I don't know how anybody can say he's not that good. Hold on. We got Michael Houghton. Hi, guys. Boarding an Indy flight that's 3 hours late to Indiana, so should land by 11:30. Go get a better quarterback before Jones is as good as AR. Yeah, Daniel Jones is as good as AR. He's probably better than AR, Michael, and I'm sorry you're a Colts fan because that has to be miserable.
So to answer your question, 6 quarterbacks threw for 4,000 yards last year, and one of them was Lamar Jackson. And you can
how many of them did the last 2 years was the question.
I don't know. Whatever you want about Lamar Jackson as a passer when the playoffs are here and the good defenses are he's going up,
and then he shits his pants.
But other than the issues in the playoffs, which are well established.
That's the only issue that really matters here, Dan.
He is a better quarterback.
Sure he is.
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield reads the defense better. He's got better footwork.
So is Herbert. There's about 8 or 9 quarterbacks. Maybe
sure. Yeah, Herbert is better than Baker Mayfield.
I would rather have Goff.
You'd rather have Goff.
Or I would rather.
You realize if you had Baker Mayfield, you probably would have won a Super Bowl in the last 2 years.
And for someone who talks about, Josh Allen makes bad decisions, Baker Mayfield threw how many interceptions? How many?
41 touchdowns, 16
did Josh Allen have last year?
Okay, answer me this question. While you run your mouth and don't pay attention to things that are important here, who do you think plays with the better supporting cast? Josh Allen or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Baker Mayfield, who does it in Tampa Bay?
Baker Mayfield has 2 very good wide receivers. And
okay, I don't know why receivers would be brought up first.
Well, hold on. They've got 2 good wide receivers, and Evans is one of the most consistent receivers over the last decade. Their rookie running back, Irvin, had a very good year for a rookie, was a very solid addition for them, played very well for them. Their offensive line was solid.
No, it's not. It's below average, which puts them in the top half of the league. Though.
That's all you need, because a lot of these offensive
lines. Not really, but you need more.
A lot of the lines suck, and your line
all lions suck. They're lions.
Average. Then you could say they're all right compared to some of the other options out there, and even in their own division they have the best offensive.
I agree with Michael Houghton. He's an Indiana guy. He knows. Move AR to tight end and let Mike Goodpaster quarterback us in September.
We'll talk about the quarterbacks, our rankings, and all that.
It doesn't matter because you're wrong. Because you're just wrong.
Let's come back.
His last 2 seasons should tell you we're trending in the same direction. Where 2 years from now you're going to say, "Yeah, you were right about that too."
Nah. If in 2 years,
it happens 2 years
ago, you said 2 years ago the Ravens should let Lamar Jackson go so their backup could start.
No, I said you're never going to. I said that Lamar Jackson. Okay, now number 1 here, we can pull that up if you want. But what I said was Lamar Jackson would be much better off at a place that actually let him play quarterback instead of racially stereotyping him into being a runner who gets destroyed because they don't play an actual offense, because John Harbaugh's probably a racist and he sees a fast black guy and he wants to run with him. If you watch Lamar Jackson in Louisville, he was a pocket passer. Lamar Jackson could easily be a top 2 or 3 quarterback if he was in a system that would allow him to be, instead of some archaic system where all they do is draft running backs, never get him any wide receiver help. I have never ripped that Lamar Jackson was bad. I think if you put Lamar Jackson in Tampa Bay, his numbers would be very similar to Baker's. They may be better. I'm saying he has been dumbed down by bad coaching.
The only thing Baker was better than Lamar last year in was yards. But he had 45 to Lamar's 41.
I hate to tell you this, but once again, we keep missing the whole point.
Lamar Jackson had 41 passing touchdowns and 4 interceptions. You can say whatever you want about his completion percentage, what he does in the playoffs. I agree. He's got to be
the only thing that matters. Damn.
But he wins a ton of games. He's won the MVP, and he had 41 passing touchdowns. You want to talk about Baker Mayfield? Ooh, what's Lamar Jackson have? He's got Derrick Henry at running back. He's got an old tight end in Andrews who got moved out the door. He's got Zay Flowers, who, let's be honest, 5'9" as your wide receiver 1 slot guy.
His offensive line wasn't half bad last year, but now they got rid of half of them.
I was going to say, now they're a little.
All right, and wait a second. Michael Howden says the Ursay ladies that run our team will not tolerate half-ass crap. I'm sorry, Michael, but anytime you start off with the Ursay ladies that run our team, you're screwed.
So let's come back to Kansas City. So we got the best offseason edition move. How about the biggest loss? Can we both agree that it's Joe Thuney?
I think it's Travis Kelce's innocence.
Nice.
But yes, we can agree with that.
All right, cool. So that's Thuney. How about Mike, the non-first round rookie who's going to have an immediate impact?
Well, that would obviously, to me, be one of 2 guys. That would be. I'll tell you, I'm going to go a little bit different here. I'm going to go Noel Williams from California. I know you're going to say a lot of July. I think the Chiefs actually had a really good draft. But I think the big thing here with Williams is I think he fits the system like a glove, because the Chiefs system on defense is to basically be aggressive with the pass rush or aggressive press coverage corners. And I think Williams is one of the best press coverage corners in this NFL draft. And I think he's going to be big time for the Kansas City Chiefs, and it may be from the get-go.
I love that pick. He was one of my favorite players in this class. I had a top 100 grade on him going into the draft, and I thought he was an absolute steal where they took him. And considering how bad their secondary is, I mean, Jalen Watson is one of their starters slated. They signed Christian Fulton from the Chargers, and Fulton's all right, but he's not necessarily locking anyone down out there. And if Trent McDuffie's going to be in the slot as your nickelback when you have 3 corners out there, you're going to need at least one more guy who can play on the outside. And I think that's Noel Williams. I love this pick. So that was actually a really good one. I'm going to go with Norman Lott, their 2nd round pick. He was one of the better pass rushers in this draft class. He had an excellent pass rush winning percentage in Tennessee this past season. He's a little undersized, but he'll be part of the rotation, and I think he's going to be an excellent fit inside because they need more pass rush up front. And I think he'll be – you talked about fitting like a glove. I think he's another one who fits like a glove.
Well, I'll tell you, another one that was even a later pick was the Royals kid from Utah State.
Love that pick.
I think that was a very good pick also. So, I mean, if these guys, the only problem is you need a lot of them to step up right away to be that improved. Mm-hmm. But for the long run, it was an excellent draft.
And you know what? Since you said one bonus, I'm saying one more. Brashard Smith. Loved him coming into the draft. One of the better pass receivers in this class. And with the running back depth chart kind of murky for the Kansas City Chiefs, with Pacheco coming off injury and Kareem Hunt being, one off the field punt away from never playing football again. Smith could see some time as the season goes on. He's a nice late round sleeper drafts. I'm going to keep an eye on. And now finally, Mike, did this team get better, worse, or pretty much stay the same?
I'll tell you, for the future, I think they got a lot better. The offensive line still worries me, though.
It does.
I think everything else, looks good here. I think they're a good football team. I think the Broncos are probably better defensively. Mm-hmm. I think the Broncos had the better offensive line. And skill position-wise, They're both kind of in the same boat. I mean, the first guy or two you got there is great, but Kelsey's older. I will say they got better. I just think Denver got a lot better.
Yeah, dude. Denver might be on another level.
I hate to say, just be quiet because you're going to jinx it. Because remember, the first 4 years we did this show, you'd say they were the team that was going to get it done, and then they always fell apart and started out the year like 1-7, and then we'd make fun of you.
It's entirely my fault, but you know what? Let's move on. Let's go to the Las Vegas Raiders.
Do we have to? I thought this was an NFL show.
Las Vegas Raiders. First question: best offseason addition or player retention, Mike?
Ashton Genty. Since they don't have a quarterback, you've got to run the ball. So he's pretty good at that.
He is pretty good. I actually am going to go with the quarterback that they brought in. I'm going to say Geno Smith. He knows Pete Carroll's system. He played for Pete Carroll for 4 years in Seattle. He was a starter for 2 of them. So he knows exactly what the system is. He knows exactly what Pete Carroll's offense needs from the quarterback. And Geno Smith quietly has been one of the more consistent quarterbacks in the last few years. Nothing special. He's not going to win you a Super Bowl on his right arm or with his amazing athletic ability or whatever. But he's one of the more serviceable guys, and he'll be a solid veteran presence for a team that's been lacking at the position for the last few years. And
my only Geno Smith issue is this. 3 years ago, he was really good.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 years ago, about halfway through the season, it kind of went downhill.
Yeah,
I think this, I just don't know. This is a good signing. I mean, last year, 21 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, and your head coach is 73 years old. That's an issue, dude. I'm sorry. I mean, Pete Carroll is a slightly better than average coach. He coaches with a lot of emotion. Guys want to play for him. But I don't know about a 73-year-old coach and Geno Smith fixing the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, if they can win 7 games, they won what, 4 this past year?
He's too damn old to have a rebuilding time here. He's 73.
I mean, they gave him I think a 3-year deal, and they gave Geno Smith a 3-year deal. So that's their timeline pretty much. And I think they should know where they're at as a franchise because, I mean, you look at their roster. Their defense has a ton of holes everywhere, pretty much except the defensive line.
Let's just face it, they're not very good. You got Colt Miller at left tackle. The rest of the line sucks. Yeah. I mean, you got Brock Bowers at tight end. You got Ashton Genty at running back. You've got a quarterback who's probably going to play 8 amazing games and 8 bad games. And the defense, you know, the front 4 is really good. Where you got Wilkins, you got Crosby, you got Kuntz, but that back 7's going to be in trouble, especially we're going to talk about losses. We could go into that now. And
right now.
When you look at the losses of Spillane, Diavol, Hobbs, take your pick here. They lost a lot of dudes it's going to have an impact on this defense. And it's not like that defense was outstanding last year.
It was not. It was very bad. It was very mediocre. And for me, one of their biggest losses, you mentioned Robert Spillane. I'm going to say Trayvon Moehrig, their previous first-round pick. He went to the Carolina Panthers. He played in 98% of their defensive snaps. He's only 26 years old. And for a team that was lacking already in the secondary, I think he's going to be a big loss. Jeremy Chin steps in to replace him from Washington, but Jeremy Chin's nothing to write home about. He was signed to a short-term contract. If this defensive line is not what they expect it to be, it's going to be a long season defensively.
Even if it is, it's going to be a long season.
Now, what about the non-first round rookie who will make the biggest immediate impact?
All right, I'm going to go way down the line here to the 6th round with Tommy Millott from Montana State. I actually think that Tommy Millott is a better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders. And I have no doubt about that, to tell you the truth. And he might be better than Geno Smith, but they're going to move him to wide receiver because he's undersized. Mm-hmm. But don't be surprised if someday he's not, huh?
I think he's like 5'11" or something like that.
Yeah, but he's legit. I mean, if you've ever watched film of him play quarterback, I know it's Montana State, but Joe Flacco wasn't exactly playing in the Big Ten. A lot of guys weren't playing in the Big Ten. I like Tommy Millott because one way or the other, he's going to help this team.
Dude, that's a sleeper right there. That's a big time sleeper. It's actually fun little factoid. Malott, who is going to be playing wide receiver for the Raiders, like you said, was a quarterback at Montana State. He and Cam Miller, the quarterback from North Dakota State, who the Raiders took just 2 picks later, actually played against each other in college, and I believe they played each other in a championship.
Yeah, but Tommy Malott last year, I think it was like 31 touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
Something like that. Crazy set. And he was a good running quarterback, rushing wise as well.
He runs like 4.39, 4.38, 40 also. The dude can play.
He did have a really good workout. That's probably what got him drafted is his potential athletic.
Yeah, but what should have got him drafted as a quarterback? I mean, 5'11", 200 pounds is bigger than Kyler Murray if he's actually that big.
Yeah, I mean, Murray might be like 5'9".
Yeah, he might be 5'6". He's probably your
little guy, man.
I always imagine he was being like 5'6".
Yo, why not? He looks tiny out there. Man.
No, I'm talking about you. Aren't you like 5'6"?
Me? No, I'm 5'10".
Huh.
I'm actually normal sized, sort of.
Actually, normal size. Man size is like 6 foot.
So let me see. Okay, so you got Tommy Malott. I'm gonna go with Dante Thornton Jr., their 4th-round pick wide receiver out of Tennessee. He actually has had a lot of hype in their offseason programs thus far, making a lot of plays, showing off that deep speed, and they definitely need someone like that on the outside because let's be honest, the rest of their weapons, you already mentioned Genty and Brock Bowers, but Jacoby Myers is their best wide receiver at this point, and let's be honest, Jacoby Myers as your wide receiver 1 is a little.
Well, let's face it. The biggest issue here is, Al Davis's son, Mark Davis, who he's got a haircut like Pete Rose. He's got a 12-year-old girlfriend. I mean, it's a joke.
Crazy. So, but yeah. So
I actually think they had a pretty good draft, though.
I love their draft. They had a lot of solid pieces. Genty's going to be an immediate starter. Jack Beck, their 2nd-round pick, should see a lot of time early. Thornton should be a solid piece for him. Darian Porter, the corner they drafted in the 3rd round out of Iowa State, should be another good guy. So they're young guys are going to see a lot of time this season as the season goes on. As you know, they're not winning a lot of games. Now, did this team get better, worse, or stay the same?
I mean, they got better, but not enough. I mean, because really, I think their offseason additions weren't very good. I think the draft was good.
Yep.
But you've still got holes all over the place here. So they got better, but, that's about it. I mean, that's like saying a one-legged guy is faster than a guy with no legs.
It's another reset. New quarterback, new coach, new
system. They do this every year, every 2 years.
A bunch of veterans on short contracts to fill holes around the roster. They're brand new reset, brand new rebuild. Okay, let me see. What are we doing? How are we doing here with time? We're actually doing
the Chargers next.
We're doing really well with time, so let's keep this going. The LA Chargers, best off-season addition or re-signing. Mike, I'll start this one. I want to go with a rookie, but instead I'm going to be boring, and I'm going to go with an offensive lineman. I'm going to say Mekhi Becton, offensive guard that they signed from Philadelphia. He's probably going to be an immediate starter.
Hey, remember Mekhi Becton when we talked about him and I told you he would never make it as a tackle in the NFL? He would be a guard, and you disagreed with me.
I don't know if I disagreed that vehemently with you because he's always had heavy feet. That was always an issue with him in New York.
And let's face facts. He's only really had a year or two that was really good. So you never know what you're going to get here either.
So I'm going to say Mekhi Becton. He should be an immediate starter for them at guard. And this Chargers offensive line could be useful. They've got Becton at guard. Joe Alton, Rashawn Slater. If Slater's healthy, they could be arguably the best offensive tackle duo in the league. Bradley Bozeman, they brought him back. He was a center for them last year, but I think him and Zion Johnson, their 1st-round pick from 2022, are probably flip-flopping on the inside. Johnson might start at center, which means Bozeman could play at guard. But either way, that's a pretty solid front five. And I like that they brought in Andre James as well from the Raiders as an offseason addition. James isn't great, but he's got a lot of starting experience, and he can play guard. He can play both guard spots. He can play center for him. He adds depth inside. It's not exciting, but you need a solid offensive line, and Harbaugh knows that. Mike, what do you think is their best offseason addition or re-signing?
I don't know. We'll go Najee Harris. They got to replace losing J.K. Dobbins, I guess. And Harris will fit perfect, I think, with the Chargers' run game and the way Harbaugh likes to pound the ball. The disappointing team to me is, what were they last year? 11-5. They had plenty, or 11-6. They had plenty of cap space, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. But this is a team that got worse. This division overall, I think, got worse. I think you went from one of the best divisions in football last year to this year is probably going to be the Broncos and the Chiefs, and that's about it. Now, I do believe that Harbaugh is a good enough coach that he may be able to get them around the 9-win area, but I don't have a lot of trust or faith in Justin Herbert, and there's not a lot great here. But I think Najee Harris is a good player. Becton would have probably been my first choice, but you already took him.
I'm surprised you say Najee Harris. You didn't mention Omarion Hampton. Because their first round pick from North Carolina, another hard.
No, I'm not really paying attention to first round picks right now. I like Najee. Put it like this: with the way Harbaugh coaches, he's probably going to use them both. But I think you'll see Harris use more at the start because Harbaugh is going to trust the guy he's seen do it over the guy that he saw do it in college.
Sounds about Harbaugh-ish.
I think Hampton ends up maybe by the end of the year, definitely by the start of next year, as the number one guy.
What about, Mike, their biggest off-season loss, either via free agency trade or not?
Joshua Palmer. It's not like he's great, but he's one of the few solid wide receivers he had. I think losing Dobbins and Palmer was bad, but I think to me, you kind of replaced Dobbins. You got a couple guys in there. You drafted one. You got a veteran that's pretty good, but Josh Palmer to me would be the number one loss.
For me, I'm going to go with Asante Samuel because this, even though Samuel wasn't good, wasn't good for them last year, and he's been mostly average to above average as a starter. Their secondary, another team, their secondary is not good. Cam Hart, Tarheeb Still, Dante Jackson, who they brought in as a free agent from Pittsburgh. Those are currently their top three cornerbacks listed on the depth chart.
Yeah, and the thing that's concerning about that when we talk about the draft is they got nothing in the draft at cornerback either.
Nothing.
And they didn't touch DBs until the 6th and 7th rounds with Mickens and Bridges.
I mean, they had needs elsewhere, but yeah, I would have preferred them to address.
And I will also tell you this. Omarion Hampton is a huge reach in the first round.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the Omarion Hampton in the first round, to be honest. But
that's why I like Najee better. But I can tell you this: if you give me the best non-first round pick, I'm gonna nudge you out of the way. I am going to say, I mean, it's obviously Trey Harris from Ole Miss because I think he's going to be pretty good. But I'm not going to say that just in case you want to say it. I'm going to go with, I think, Caldwell out of Oregon because I think they really need help run defense-wise. And I think with him and Kennard, you get a little bit of a promising pass rush potential, especially for situational packages. So this was by no means a home run draft. And they get a solid foundation, I think, with those two guys. But this draft, to me, I think Hampton you picked way too high. I think Harris is a big play receiver. They've been missing that out on the outside. But there's not a lot else here, I don't think.
For me, I'm glad you actually didn't say this guy. I'm going to go with Oronde Gadsden the second, the tight end they took in the 5th round. I'm going to say him because Will Dissly is more of like a blocking tight end. Tyler Conklin, he's an all right receiver. He came over from the Jets, but he was not special for the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. And, I mean, he's all right as an outlet receiver, but he's nothing special. And Gadsden, he showed out, another one who showed out in these off-season workouts and rookie camp and whatever. He was making some noise, and if he can show some receiving chops, I see no reason why he can't pass Tyler Conklin on the depth chart early on in the season. And
well, I think the good thing about Gadsden is he's good enough and he's quick enough to kind of be a flex tight end, which means he can play pretty much anywhere on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know that I'm as huge on him as you are, but I do think he is a good tight end. And this was a great tight end class. And
Yes.
the kid's like 6'4", 240 pounds. So you get the 4.65, 40. And I would say this. My only issue with him as a tight end would be this. I think when you watched him play in college, that he kind of struggled at the point of attack against traditional power edges. And I think that we get a little bit too excited. He can play all over, but he's not a traditional tight end. He's built more like a big wide receiver. But I think when I watch him, what I see more is kind of an average ability to change direction, which is going to kind of limit his creativity post catch. So I think he's a 5th-round pick. I think he's a dude that will probably play 5 to 10 years in the NFL, but I don't think he's going to be a dude that you see catch 80 or 90 balls in a season, probably not even 30 or 40. But I don't think it's a bad pick. I just think that what I said was probably smarter than what you said.
Yeah, I mean, for a 5th-round pick on a tight end in an offense that needs passing options, because let's be honest, outside of Ladd McConkey, Trey Harris is a raw rookie on the outside, but they got Mike Williams, injury prone, old, Quentin Johnston, who was better this past season, but he could very well slip into obscurity again. And like I already said, Will Dissly is more of a blocking tight end than anything. So if this is another team that's looking for another receiving option, and Trey Harris takes a little while to develop into a useful option early on in the season, Gadsden could at the very least give them another piece to that puzzle. And then finally, did this team get better, get worse, or stay the same, Mike?
They got worse. To me, I don't think the draft was very good. They lost a lot more than what they gained back in free agency. So I think this is a team that was on the cusp of being able to win this division. I think now they've dropped to being the 3rd best team in this division.
I'm going to say I think they stayed pretty much the same. Like you said, they didn't make really enough big moves in places of need. Like you mentioned, run defense has been a big need. It's been a big need of theirs for years, I feel like, even before Harbaugh got there. But, Deshaun Hand, Tahir Tart, Agbanaya really doesn't scare anyone when you talk about defensive line. And that's where Jamari Caldwell will step in, and hopefully he plays a lot for them this season, and he's a good piece. But it's a meh team. The Broncos are definitely better. Kansas City's better. I think this is the 3rd best team in this division as well. But they've got a proven coach with a proven system. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. This is a team that could win 9 or 10 games if everything goes right. But I think it's just more of the same. And then bonus question, final one to wrap things up for the AFC West. Which team had the best offseason in this division? All things considered. Draft, free agency, coaching changes.
I would say the Denver Broncos. I think adding Ingram, adding Greenlaw. When you look at the draft, I would say the draft, I think the Chiefs were slightly better.
Okay.
But I think the Broncos did really well too. But I think the Broncos were much better in free agency. So I would give a edge, not a huge edge, but an edge to the Broncos.
Honestly, if I had to pick a team that had the best offseason, the Broncos stand out, but I'm going to say the Raiders, only because they have direction finally.
They got a 73-year-old coach who'll probably be dead soon. They've got Geno Smith, who sucked last year. Didn't suck, but he was very average. And their owner sucks. This is a dead-end job for Pete Carroll. No matter how good a job he does, his owner will mess this up.
That may be true.
And also, they were coming from the basement, dude. So I'm not even going to count it. And really, I mean,
you got to take these wins. And like, again, they have direction for the first time that I can think of for the Raiders.
I don't think they have direction.
They were competing for Super Bowls in the early 2000s.
There's no direction here.
There's direction with Pete Carroll.
You
don't
cannot
need
have
to
direction when
look
your
at-
owner is Mark Davis. There's no direction because it all comes from the top. He will screw this up somehow.
Maybe, but I like what the Raiders did at quarterback, at running back, etc. Head coach, all good things, positive feels for Las Vegas. Do you have any final thoughts, questions, or concerns for the Raiders, for the Chargers?
I have no concerns for the Raiders.
Perfect.
Because we already know what's going to happen with the Raiders. But I really, right now, the way it stands, it could change during training camp. Somebody get hurt or something. But I'd like the Broncos to maybe unseat the Kansas City Chiefs.
Perfect. And we will dive into that.
And I still think the Chiefs are a playoff team. So I think those two teams are going to win, 11 to 13 games each.
And we're going to dive into that, like I said, a lot more in August when we do our season preview and pick'ems and all that good stuff. But I think that's it. We're going to put a bow on the AFC West for now. The next show we do is going to be the NFC East, Dallas, New York.
How about those Cowboys?
Washington. How about them Cowgirls? That's going to be fun. So be sure to tune in for that. And for my Goodpaster, I'm Dan Kornhauser. Thank you guys for tuning in. Give us a follow, give us a like, share, subscribe to all your social medias and join our social medias and all that good stuff. Thank you guys for